From 1988 to 1993, the St. Louis Blues and the Chicago Blackhawks met in 5 out of the 6 postseasons. So what happened when two teams predisposed to hate each other took turns ending each other's season year after year after year in a sport that allows/encourages fighting with sticks? Within those 6 years of direct combat, everyone did their part to make the decades-long rivalry rise to beef. Coaches and players traded teams and allegiances. The same guy kept getting away with monster hits on the Blues, yet when the Blues hit him, it just kind of made him stronger. Oh, also, the Blues picked up a guy who allegedly tried to blind a Chicago player. The pot lid was shaking, steam was billowing out the sides, and finally, on March 17, 1991, the lid blew off, spewing beef across the ice in a game so violent it would become known as the St. Patrick's Day Massacre. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's set the scene. There are 4 things I want to tell you about the history of these teams. First of all, they're less than 300 miles apart, so fans can easily travel to away games. Though, if you value your blood staying inside your body, you might not want to. Second, the stadiums themselves played a role in riling up fans. They were built to be raucous. Third, the Hawks are the only reason the Blues even exist. In the 60s, Hawks owner Arthur Wirtz also owned a stadium in St. Louis that was mostly used for the National Dairy Show. It was not a lucrative investment. So, in 1966, when the league was considering giving either Baltimore or St. Louis an expansion team, Wirtz lobbied hard for St. Louis, sponsored their bid, and sold his stadium to the new team's owner. This created an instant little brother, big brother, you owe me type relationship between the teams, which the Blues didn't like, and after a while, the Blackhawks didn't like either, because nobody likes a little brother who's better than you at sports. Which brings me to my last bit of scene setting. In their first 3 years of existence, St. Louis went to the Stanley Cup Finals 3 times. Sure, they didn't win any of those, and the only reason they made it was the finals format guaranteed one of the expansion teams would get the spot, but still, got further than Chicago. In your face. The close quarters and ire of fans made this rivalry strong and fun, but it was just an appetizer for the beef. In 1988, after a regular season full of some not great hockey, the Blues and Hawks still made the playoffs and met in the Norris Division semis. While the numbers in the win column weren't high, tempers certainly were. Consider this anecdote. In Game 5, Hawks coach Bob Murdoch was so frustrated he went into a meeting room during the first intermission, presumably to scream obscenities too vile for even the locker room. In anger, he slammed the door so hard the lock fell out, trapping him. They had to get a forklift to smash down the door and free him. To be fair to Murdoch, Game 5 was an elimination game, and Chicago did get eliminated. It was the Blues' young star, Brett Hull, who scored twice in the third period to put the game out of reach, which was particularly insulting to Chicago fans. Brett's dad was longtime Hawks hero Bobby Hull, and now his kid was betraying them? But they loved Bobby. In the offseason, both Chicago and St. Louis fired their head coaches and tried to land recently available, always formidable, kinda scary Mike Keenan. He had taken the Flyers to the Stanley Cup twice in 4 years, and both teams wanted that to happen to them, if not more. But Chicago had more money to throw Keenan's way, so they got him. And Blues ex-coach Jock Martin? He took a job with the Hawks as Keenan's top assistant, putting himself in a wonderful position to live out the revenge fantasies against his former employer that he was undoubtedly having. But the Blues dominated the 88-89 regular season series, going 6-1-1. They finished second in the division, while the Hawks barely made the playoffs. In fact, Chicago had the worst record of all teams in the playoffs, which made it all the more impressive when they upset the Red Wings in 6 games and advanced to the division finals against their best buds in the whole wide world. The Blues were expected to continue their dominance, but they came out too confident, too lackadaisical, too stinky, and Chicago took Game 1, as well as Game 3 and 4. The Hawks, in position to eliminate the Blues in Game 5, got some help from an unlikely hero. Jeremy Roenick had been called up for the playoffs. Early in Game 5, an errant skate hit him in the face and he got 8 stitches. But face stitches didn't keep him from the ice, nor did it keep him from a high-sticking duel with Glenn Featherstone later in the game. Featherstone won, breaking Roenick's nose and knocking out his teeth. Roenick suppressed the urge to spit his teeth out, which he says is the natural instinct when your teeth get knocked out, and I have to take his word for it. Why didn't he give in to instinct and spit his teeth out? Because he wanted to show them to the ref to make sure Featherstone got a major penalty. It worked. To have that sort of presence of mind right after the bones of your face are smashed with a hockey stick, that is not my understanding of how pain works. Oh, and in the resulting power play, Roenick came out of the box and hit a game-sealing 40-foot goal. That is not my understanding of how pain works. Chicago sent the Blues home, just as the Blues had done to them the year before. In 1990, they met in the Norris Division Finals, but things were a little different this year. First, both teams were contenders. They each had the Stanley Cup in their sights, though they had to look past each other to see it. Second, in the middle of the season, Chicago had picked up former Blues first-round draft pick Jocelyn Lemieux from Montreal. Lemieux felt the Blues had never given him a fair shake and expected too much from him when he was just a kid. Now with Chicago, Lemieux had a chance to show them how much he had matured. Wait, is matured the right word? Lemieux made a key play in Game 4 of the division finals. No, not a heroic goal or a precise assist. Rather, he annoyed Brett Hull, the crux of the St. Louis offense, until Hull high-sticked him so hard he got ejected. It was classic Lemieux. He got 5 stitches above his eye, but seemed to think it was worth it. The series went to do-or-die Game 7, where the Blues self-destructed. Hull, the NHL's leading playoff scorer, was a non-factor. Meanwhile, everyone on Chicago was a factor. Chicago eliminated St. Louis for a second year in a row. In the offseason, the Blues made some roster moves that sure helped the team, but bonus pissed off Chicago. First, they picked up free agent Scott Stevens from the Capitals. In 1990, Stevens and Chicago defenseman Dave Manson got in a uniquely vicious fight. Manson said Stevens tried to gouge his eyes out, around here, I guess, and that's why he was forced, in self-defense, to bite Stevens in the hand. Stevens said he only scratched Manson's face near his eyes, and that was after Manson bit him. Since nobody could tell whether the bite or the face scratch was first, the league suspended both for 3 games. St. Louis further enhanced their roster by grabbing Chicago's Bob Basson off the waiver draft. Insulted at even being put on the waiver draft, Basson was determined to do well against Chicago. In their first matchup of the year, the Blues lost, but Basson cut Jeremy Roenick. Doing well can be defined in a number of ways. Then, in late December, with both teams neck and neck at the top of the league, Basson got into it with Lemieux. Lemieux went for a groin shot, and the gloves went flying. Their February home-and-home series started with Roenick delivering a huge, uncalled hit on Basson. Some said Roenick's hit was one of the best of the year, while the Blues GM, Ron Caron, said Roenick nearly decapitated Basson. And that's not all Caron said. He called Roenick a dirty player and implied his style of physical play was cowardly. Now, Caron did say Roenick was talented and cute, but only as an explanation as to why the refs let him get away with stuff. Not to worry, there was an opportunity for the Blues to take justice into their own hands the very next game, in which the first period took over an hour to play due to penalties. David Lowry did get some revenge on Roenick, but was it enough? A month later, these teams had another home-and-home series. With just 9 games until the playoffs, the stakes were even higher. They were sure to meet in the division finals, but home ice for that series would be determined in these 2 games. When Roenick scored in the first game, he raised his arms in celebration, and Scott Stevens let him know nobody had forgotten his hit on Basson last month. Dave Manson and Steve Thomas held him down so Dirk Graham could punch him more easily. Chicago won, but the drama wasn't done yet. Remember? Home and home. Overnight, the Blues brought up Kelly Chase just in case they needed another enforcer, or perhaps to guarantee they needed another enforcer. In the second game, after about 6 minutes of play, Roenick smashed Harold Snepps. No call, but Glenn Featherstone informed Roenick that he shouldn't do that. Pete Brown protected Roenick by pulling the old Beavis and Butthead move on Featherstone. Blues coach Brian Sutter sent in Kelly Chase and Darren Kimball, which he said was just an innocent line change, But to Chicago, it sure seemed like Sutter was sending his tough guys in to attack Roenick. And that's a fair conclusion considering Brindamore and Kimball 2-on-1'd Roenick during the line brawl that had broken out. Snaps took Yanni down, Kimball eventually got Roenick alone, I don't know where Brindamore went. Eventually, the refs got control and 6 players were ejected. In the second period, everyone was calm and gentle. Just kidding, everyone's eyes turned red and their neck veins stood out and they skated around mumbling, "Just give me a reason." And they got one when Steve Larmer high-sticked Paul Cavallini. Mike Keenan was instantly like, "Hey, I'm also doing a line change with my toughest guys," and sent out Mike Peluso and Stu Grimson. Fights broke out all over the ice. It wasn't clear where to focus your attention, so the cameras just zoomed out to show it all. Until Manson and Stevens, the biter and the gouger, found each other in the corner. But that's no place for the main event. Manson beckoned Stevens to center ice, and the delicate ballet that is punching while on ice skates began. Both landed some hard hits. Stevens finished on top, but bloodied. And apparently, while we were all watching the boxing match, everyone else kept on fighting. Look how tired Jeff Brown and Wayne Presley are. The game that would become known as the St. Patrick's Day Massacre saw 278 penalty minutes, including 24 minor, 12 major, and 17 misconduct penalties. 12 players were ejected, and the Hawks won 6-4. In the aftermath, both sides said what they were supposed to say while they waited for the league to dole out consequences. Kelly and Peluso were suspended 10 games, and Scott Stevens got 2. It's a good thing they didn't wait until the postseason to go at each other's throats. 1, because you don't want a player suspended deep into the playoffs, and 2, because Chicago got upset in the semis, and thus there was no playoff matchup. In '92, they faced each other in the Norris semis, but almost as if they knew they had gone too far last year, things were relatively calm. The Hawks won in 6 games. It was Roenick who put the nail in the coffin, scoring twice in Game 6's 2-1 victory, which I'm sure Blues fans noted through slit eyes. The '93 regular season saw some of their signature rough stuff return, even though the two teams were on the opposite ends of the division. With 98 wins, Chicago finished 3rd in the league and was gunning for the Stanley Cup. The Blues finished 21 points behind the Hawks and just barely made the playoffs. How embarrassing for Chicago when, in the division semis, the lowly Blues went up 3-0. Game 4 went into overtime, where Hull kinda got in goalie Ed Belfour's way as Craig Janney slid the series-winning goal into the empty net. Belfour wanted an interference call, but the ref wasn't hearing him. He filed complaints, first with the goal, then later with the visiting locker room. Despite Belfour's wrath, the 1993 playoff series actually ended this chapter of the Blues-Hawks Book of Beef. The pages are slices of roast beef. Thanks to a division realignment and early playoff exits, St. Louis and Chicago did not meet in the postseason again until 2002. Rivals since the Blues' inception, the late 80s, early 90s Hawks-Blues beef was defined by swollen-faced heroics, loyalty switches, personal animosities, brawls, of course, but overall, it was the fact that these teams were locked in competition with one another for 6 unrelenting years. They could not escape each other. All they could do was eat beef. Hey, thanks for watching. You're welcome to subscribe, or not, whatever. I won't take it personally. For more Brett Hull, check out this video. Or for more hockey violence, there's this one. Alright, I'll talk to you guys later. For Secret Base, I'm Clara Morris. Good night and good game.